Hello, Susan. Hello, Yi.
Good morning, E. Good morning, Bin Bin.
Morning.
Just getting my windows ready. So ready to share my screen. So I think I meant to be. Okay, can everybody see the screen fine?
Yes.
Thanks for confirming, E. Yeah, so I've added 2 agenda to the meeting today. So one is the GA release status check, and also the other agenda is to let's use some time today just to come up with a proposed next milestone. And I also had a quick look at the gatekeeper's path. So maybe during later of the meeting, we can just create next milestone so we can throw everything in. So quick look at the P. First one, 1075. So update local build doc. So this is a change. Okay, so it's updating our contribution guidelines with local steps. Yeah, I'll be able to take a look soon. Next one is Bin Bin's 1078, adding templates to the docs.
Yeah, so actually I consulted the documentation for the policy templates because we already have 2 templates before under the providers. So I moved 2 of them to the new Rego templates.md, and also I added another 2 templates that handles the multiple identities case. So now we have 4 templates now.
Yeah, so I think just bringing up the negative testing, like I think this would be a good PR for Feynman to review since he owns the policy area in the testing assignments, and he can have a look at if the new example satisfies the requirements of like getting users quickly started to use the policy. So maybe we could add tag Feynman.
Yeah, I guess also I need some idea from E, because this is an issue created by E. So I guess both E and Feynman can have a look on this PR.
Yeah, sounds good. E, will you be okay reviewing this?
Sure. Yeah,
just
this
to
PR,
see like from a regular user's perspective, like if they'll be able to review the document and the template and like as it gets started. And Bin, also, what is our target audience? Like, do we assume the user have regular knowledge, or do we try to educate them in like how this is how you use a regular template? What is our assumption about the user's knowledge?
Do you mean for examples of just for the general? For those examples, if actually it can be used for the beginners because they are not just templates, they are just the exact queries that for each case, and they can just copy paste to their like templates. But if they want to do some like modification or they want to have their own use case, then it requires some experience on Ripple.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay, so during review, we can like review it from the eye of a beginner and see if it makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
One more thing to look here. So this morning I just merged. So Joshua is working on the migration of the docs to the Ratify website. So do we have a changing process here where like any new documents that come after this huge migration, should we like merge them directly on the website, or are we gonna have like a syncing mechanism? I'm assuming at some point we're gonna remove the docs from this repo and just use the Ratify web repo, correct?
I actually have a question on it. So I see Notation had also has a website and also there is a spec repo, and I don't think the spec repo was migrated to the website. So I'm thinking if it will apply the same to Ratify, that we have both a website and a separate spec repo. Or should we also move the specification to the website?
Specs do not, well, that's a good question. Because typically is it like we're talking about like scenario specs, or are we talking about more like implementation specs?
I think it's more about the scenario spec because I don't think we have much implementation details on our doc.
Right. No, but I was thinking more about in terms of the, because one thing that we should also start looking at is we kind of have design docs scattered around HackMD, like in Akash's personal HackMD, in your personal HackMD, Susan's HackMD. So I wonder if there's probably a better place to start consolidating all of this as well.
Yeah,
I think maybe we can export the existing hack markdown file to store in the spec repo if we don't have that. So that later we can also follow this practice that we can write spec under the specification repo, so that it will not lose track. And also we can, because it's a specification repo, right, we will create a PR so that we can review the spec from the using the PR. So the history will also be tracked.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, for those we already done, we just export from the hack markdown file and stored in the specification repo.
Does Notary currently has a spec repo for both the PM and or sort of the scenario specifications and the design developer design implementation docs?
For Notation, we have a specification repo, and under that repo we have a specification for example, for signatures, and also for the sign workflow and the verification flow. And previously we also have some document around the scenarios and personas. So basically those specifications are in the in a dedicated specification repo, and the notation also has a client specification because notation is the tooling. So there are some user experience around the command lines, right? So we have those specification under the notation repo because that is specific for the notation tooling, notation CLI. Sorry, yeah. So I think we can have a repo and we can put specification or a design proposals. As you may know that there are some practice from other community like Ham, Kubernetes. They also have some proposals stored in certain repo. And once the proposal is reviewed, and basically mean that it can have people to implement it. So the community can start the implementation because the proposal defined the scenarios and flow and design so that anyone from the community can contribute to this.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. We should have a separate repo for this. So then, yeah, let's do that. And sorry, again, one more question. In notation, do they surface this design specs in the website?
On the website, normally those pages documents are for the user purpose. So for the specification I just mentioned, that repo, those documents are not available on the website. But for the CLI, we have the link from the website to the CLI specification, because that specification also valuable for our users to understand how to use the CLI.
Okay, makes sense.
So I think, yeah, so I think the purpose is that on the website, it should be targeting our end users. If it is valuable for them, we can put it on the website or put a link.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So then
Feynman just joined. Go ahead, Luis.
No, I was just going to say, so then to close, the plan of action is let's create a separate repo to store our design specs and implementation specs and user scenario specs, and only surface those that in the website that are sort of useful for customers, right? When we discuss sort of functionality or like how features work or things like that, then those are the ones that we could potentially surface there. But as far as for implementation reviews and all that, we should just basically keep this in a separate repo. Does that make sense?
I have one question. Since currently we don't have an org for the, I mean, the specific org for organization for Ratify, because Ratify currently under this lab, right? So that means we need to have another repo under this lab. But there are also other repositories not related to Ratify under this lab, right? So.
Right.
So Luis, do you mean you want to create another repo, or maybe at this moment we can use a specific directory to store the design proposals scenarios under the Ratify repo? And one more thing about Notary project specification, because those specifications are also available for other implementations. So notation as a tooling is implement the Notary project specification, but there could be other CLI tools or library implementing this specification. So if we want to have a Ratify have a similar specification repo, dedicated specification repo, so that means other teams could implement a different Ratify based on the Ratify specification, right? So I think if this specification are only for how Ratify is implemented, so maybe currently we can use a specific directory to store those proposals.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. I think the other thing that we're still discussing is kind of eventually we want to find the permanent home for Ratify. So I think just carrying the specs right now with sort of in a spec folder makes sense. So yeah, so instead of its own repo, like for now, let's just have its own sort of directory under the repo. Okay.
Sounds good. And earlier, Feynman, we had a question about when we make doc updates in Ratify repo, what's the process to sync to the Ratify website, and what's the frequency?
Actually, after migration to the Ratify website repo, I think we will remove the docs from the source code repo and maintain the single source on the Ratify website repo. So we don't need to sync from the source code repo to the website. This will reduce the duplicated maintenance effort. And we only focus on the user documentation on the website repo, but for developer or design guide or design spec, I think we can maybe keep this docs folder exist and continue to maintain that.
Got it. So we'll probably need an issue to track the deletion of the docs folder. So migration has already happened, correct?
Yeah, migration is already is in progress. I think Joshua's PR was merged, I think by.
I merged it, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
So should Binbin be making this PR against the documentation report then?
Yes.
I think so. If the next step is to delete the document from the source code, I think this PR should be raised to the website repo. We will not do the migration for this PR again.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I can create an issue for removing the docs directory, but kind of it's more like repurposing, right? Delete the current existing content and maybe add a spec folder. Like it will keep the README that says go to our website and then have a spec folder.
Yeah. And users are usually to visit the website at first, and recently we had a user request that the documentation on the website is not consistent with the Ratify docs folder. So I think we should maintain the content on the website up to date and duplicate the content in the source code repo. Yeah.
Okay, I can create a tracking issue for that.
I have a couple of questions about the migration, Feynman. So how is Joshua, and maybe we should have Joshua on the call, how is he verifying is he going to verify the consistency and the sort of the links and everything works?
I think when he migrated the docs from the source code repo to the website, at that time, I think there's no new doc related PR merged. But I think currently it is the Ratify website is consistent with the source code repo. I mean the documentation. So for the related links, currently website repo has that link check logic in its CI. So if there's any broken links, when we do this migration, I think the website repo, the CI workflow will check, and the build will fail. It was failed when I think last time it was failed due to there were some broken links. So I think Josh has fixed those broken links, and now I think we don't have any broken links.
Okay.
After this migration.
So we're running that that link health checker every time we make many changes to the doc repo, correct?
Yeah, if we have new PRs, the that link check will detect it in the CI workflow. The
Okay.
PR will fail if we introduce any broken links.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
One last thing that I would try to do before. Okay, so then maybe I see. So because one last check that I would like to do here is if we, I guess when we delete the content from this repo, we will not get broken links on the website, right? Have we checked?
I think this.
Have we have like, I guess my question is, have we spot checked that the links on the website are actually pointing to new links on the website and not sort of potentially pointing to links here in the repo?
Yeah, this is a good question. Actually, I think we may have a few links which are directly point to the Ratify source code repo, and maybe those links are not using the relative links. So
right.
we need to check if we have some links which are directly pointing to the source code repo. So before we checking and confirm that, I think we will not delete the docs from source code repo.
Yep.
Joshua mentioned he is checking that, and he might send a PR if we still have a few links pointing to the source code repo. We will avoid that before we delete the Ratify docs from the source code repo.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Feynman.
Yeah, I have one more question. So I think I haven't contributed to the website repo yet. I wonder if we should have the maintainer access, or we can just have the further PR.
Yeah. I think we should add Ratify code owners or maintainers to the website repo, so you will have the review and the merge access for that repo. I think we need maybe Bridget or someone else to add the grant access to you folks.
Thank you.
The check-in process remains the same. Like one of the maintainers need to sign off before merge. And is Josh a maintainer as well?
Actually, Josh is not a maintainer, but I believe Akash, Luis, and myself are maintainers for that repo. And
yeah,
also Bridget.
Yeah, we should probably like make it consistent with the maintainer.
Yeah.
So for this PR, the regular template, so Binbin, will you be making, closing this PR and making it against the doc report? And Feynman, while you're testing the policy for negative testing, could you also help reviewing this to see if this meets the requirements for like getting started templates?
I will follow the templates.
Cool. Thanks. Our next PR, add type 2 policy CRD. Question, Binbin, does this change bump up the version of the CRD?
No, because currently we are still in Alpha 1, so I think it makes sense to make the change without bumping the version. But once we bump up to beta, then we would need to bump from beta 1, beta 2, beta 3.
Oh, I was under the impression like if we introduced new fields or any changing behavior that we should be versioning them.
Yeah, I don't know if that applies to the alpha stage. Maybe we can ask in Gatekeeper to see the convention on the bump up.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I'll also have to review the type of change, but this is going into 1.0.
I think it depends on the date of the V1 release.
Okay. Okay, yeah, we can review what we have in the release. Okay, but I'll be able to take a look at this PR after the meeting. So going back to our milestone, I'll go to issues, milestone V1, just doing a status check. So currently it's the V1 date is next Friday. And I'll just go through the list from like the earliest. So 744 Ratify 1.0 scale target. To discuss the Ratify 1.0 scale target. What do we want to achieve and what's the current scale? Is this one still for 1.0?
I think this is related to the performance test, and also we can provide our current data for 1.0, then that is okay, because we didn't receive specific requirements on this target. So we provide our data for 1.0, then it's enough.
Okay, so I understand Akash is working on the performance test. Should I assign this one to him?
I think this is more about questions. What is current scale and what do we want to achieve? And so we don't have a specific requirement on what we want to achieve. So we just need to answer what is the current scale.
Yeah. So publish some documentation, right? When we publish V1.
Based on Akash's performance test results.
So this is basically an update on the sort of performance or load tests that Akash has been preparing. So yeah, this is merely sort of like communicating to customers. This is what we've tested. This is kind of what we think is good. So we unfortunately haven't gotten a lot of feedback. I think one of the things we wanted to incorporate here was any customer feedback, but we really haven't gotten any there yet. So I think this is gonna be mostly an exercise in documenting what we know we can safely scale to.
So for V1, the deliverable is publish doc about current scale.
Yes.
Okay.
Like test results here, I guess.
Test result. Test result. Okay. And Akash is working on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Updated. 938, migrate the docs to Ratify dev. That one's being done, or it's in progress, but we're pending.
I think it's in progress. And yeah, after we Yeah, after we finalizing the links check and also removing the docs from the source code repo, I think this item could be closed. Yeah, I mean, we still need to check the links from the on the website and also remove the docs from the source code repo.
Yep. Validate links on website. That's the truth. Is there another one I'm missing?
That's true.
Okay. And who should take this one? So just find an owner. So when we release, we know what's the status of everything.
Actually, Joshua is currently on this issue, but I pinned him in this issue, but he seems not comment on it. We cannot assign it to Joshua. I will double check with Joshua.
Okay. And you'll update the item. Sounds good. Next one, 958, branching release strategy.
Yeah, this one I am in progress. So I will have something by the end of the evening.
Thanks.
Basically a document on explaining sort of how are we gonna be moving forward with branches and releases.
This one is documentation related for like adding a reference to the build and sign like notation steps. I remember there was some PRs in progress for the notation in the notation repo. Are we still like, has that been merged already with like different ways of signing your images?
No, not yet. We have 2 PRs still under review, not merged yet.
Okay, so should I move this out because we might not have those docs to reference before V1?
Yeah, I don't think this will block V1 release. Yeah, great.
Thanks. I'll move it out.
And we can also transfer this issue to the website repo, as this is just a pure user guide content change.
Yeah, sounds good. Is there a button to like migrate an issue?
I think maybe Luis had the repo admin access to transfer that. I think it requires permission to transfer the issue.
I can check. I've never done that, but yeah, I can definitely check.
Yeah, for all of those doc related issue, especially for user guides that we want to add to the website, we can transfer accordingly.
Yeah. And negative testing 982, it's in progress. Yeah, we'll talk more about that one later. And based on the result of the testing, we'll have logs and stuff that we can improve the TSG. And I guess all the docs related ones, like more examples for each auth provider and HA docs, they will be migrated to the documentation repository.
Yeah.
So the next, thank you. Next one is 1046, the end-to-end test for init containers and constraint template. Binbin, do you know what's the status on this one from Junchen?
I think he's working on another PR set, that we just saw. And I don't think he's actually working on it for now.
Okay, so we have to check with Junchen if this is on track for, like what's the timeline? We'll probably need to sync up with him later.
Right.
So this is just the test, right? It's not the actual, because he checked in the init container support.
Yes, he did some manual test on both init container and ephemeral containers. So it's just missing the end-to-end test.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah, let's check with his availability. If not, then maybe someone here in the team can take it off.
Yep, and Binbin, this 1049 needs to be migrated to the doc repo.
Yeah, I'll do it.
And 1060 is to evaluate if Ratify CRD is ready for 1.0. So we had a discussion on Monday on the pending items. So Feynman, you brought up a good point, like what does it mean if Ratify GA is 1.0 and our CRD is still in beta? I think we would say like the execution logic, once the verifiers and like the store are configured, it's stable, but our configuration, it's still like can still move around a little bit. That'll be like my explanation of why the CRD is still in beta. But we also have a choice of like taking our current CRDs and GA them as like 1.1, move them to 1.0 as is, and then make updates in the next release. That's another option. We said like we will cost each different item. So for example, like for the one I was investigating, like add namespace to store, it'll impact the search store and the verifier, and also the trust store interfaces in the verifier. So it is like, I do think it needs more time to bake. And then we have to validate that the configuration works for the Kubernetes environment as well as the CLI path where there is no concept of namespace. So for this change, for the first item, I would prefer it to like not like, if we have a short time to deliver 1.0, then I prefer the namespace addition for search store to go in 1.1. And the cleaning up of the store for the cache related setting, Binbin, I think this one is a small change, correct?
Yes, it's just abstracted refactoring. So
yeah, so
yeah,
we're hoping like if we made this minor update and then we can just bump up the version from beta to 1.0. So, but this one would just take maybe like 1 or 2 days. Would that be the right costing?
Yeah, I think so.
So
1 or 2 days for developing, or including like the PR review.
So one thing that I'd like to, so Susan, one thing that it might be good to be here. So from what I've heard, it is not a requirement for our CRD to be in stable before the V1 of Ratify ships, right? There's precedent in other services where the CRDs fall on betas, and so if that's not a blocker, then I think one thing we should probably do here is have like a document or where we can actually like see what are the check boxes that we should check for a CRD to mature to stable, right? What are the Kubernetes community recommendations here? Like what are the sort of the things that we should follow before actually declaring CRD a V1, and just be consistent to what how others are evaluating the maturity model for CRDs as well.
Yeah, so Certec shared that when Gatekeeper GA'd, the CRD did not move to GA. Like they are not like exactly in sync. But once we think that it's stable, we should move to GA. So that's just his comment up here. I also messaged him on Teams. But yeah, so that's where he shared the Gatekeeper path at the time. So yeah, so the understanding is technically we don't have to be in GA, what CRD 1.0 when we GA Ratify. And then I've listed out the items that we're currently tracking.
Right. Yeah, no, that's fair. But I think what I'd like to see here is when we do the next CRD, like what are the items? What's the list look like in order to declare a CRD as stable?
I see. So yeah, like Certec just recommended, like if we think the CRDs are mature, then we should graduate them from beta to GA.
If there's no general guidance, then maybe we should make some, like maybe we need to get some level or volume of customer feedback could be one of it. I don't know, there's something here that we can build. Otherwise we're just kind of sort of testing the waters and okay, now we think we're ready. We should be a little bit more consistent. If this is the first one that the first set of CRDs that we are shipping, or like we should at least try to see what are sort of some of that criteria that we want to meet for the next set.
Feynman, do you know what we should is there anything we should refer to like as a GA checklist for CRD?
I'm looking at the Kubernetes reference that Certec provided here and see if there's any general guiding principles from the Kubernetes CRD definition. Let me check and reply there. My gut feeling is that we keep, the Ratify CRD are using user-facing configuration, and the API version are directly visible to end users. So my previous thinking is that we should keep those API version, the CRD version GA before we releasing or when we releasing V1.
Yeah. So our options are release CRD V1 as is and just document the limitations. Option 2, fix these little things and then push back the Ratify 1.0 release. Or release 1.0 Ratify without bumping up our CRDs. Sajay, do you have any preference?
I think we're mixing up. Do we have a beta first of all already?
So what's the question? Do we have a beta?
Yeah. What's the current version of the CRD? The API spec?
Beta.
Yeah, we have policy in alpha and all the CRDs in beta.
Okay. Is there anybody asking for the CRD in V1?
No.
Feynman's concern is like it's like they will ask why is Ratify in 1.0 but the CRDs are in beta, and my question would be like once that we execute is mature and production ready, but the configuration might move around a little bit. But I don't know if user will think that's okay.
So as far as I understand, pod spec is API version V1, but Kubernetes doesn't have to be V1. It's 1.2 and 1.27 and 1.26. So the CRD definition doesn't have to be, I mean, it can be independently versioned irrespective of what the runtime and the component bits are. Is that what I'm understanding from this?
Yes, that's what Certec confirmed as well. Like technically they don't have to be the same.
Yes. So then I think we should, if everybody in the Kubernetes community understands that the CRD version is the API version of how to configure this versus the Ratify bits that you have is a V1.0, they can drift. Trying to keep them together is also challenging because once you start patching Ratify, right, you'll have trouble Besides, you don't have to rev the CRD to get a new version of Ratify binary. Have you thought about that? Like, yeah, if you want to go Ratify v2, do you really need to rev all your configuration for that? That would be tough, right? Let's think about it. I don't know. I'm not really sure that we are at a V1 for the CRDs yet, because you want to do HA, you want to do feature additions, but GAing Ratify might, and basically we can talk to people on the AKS side if they have anything, and then get feedback from them also. But if Shatak has kind of like given us this guidance, then
yeah. So in your list of options, it looks like yeah, I agree with the going with number 3, where we basically ship CRD as it is, as a beta.
Okay, so I'll move this one to future.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one on the list is one of the items that we just discussed, if CRDs are ready for V1. So Xinghe, Binbin, and I were exploring like different options to add the namespace to certificate store, and how to keep it backwards compatible. So we had some discussion on the thread, and I've captured all the ideas that we've discussed so far. Like, to make it backwards compatible, the old CRs doesn't have the namespace. So where should we look if there's no namespace? So we are currently leaning towards idea number 3. If there's no namespace, we'll look for the cert store that's in the same namespace as the verifier. And we think it's safe to assume that whatever custom verifier the customers have today, the verifier and the cert store should be installed in the same namespace. So I've listed out like some of the interfaces that we need to change to add this information. And the summary, like my preference is like not rushing this. This would require more time to bake and validate to make sure both the cluster and the CLI code path are backwards compatible. So this one, I would suggest to move out to 1.1. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, I feel if it's backward compatible, then it's okay to be added after V1.
Yeah. Louis, I'm gonna move this.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. Cool. So that's everything on our list. And I think given the release date is next Friday, and we just have a lot of documentation bugs to move, I think we should be on track to release Ratify 1.0 next Friday.
Very cool.
Cool. And one of the most important things that we're doing this milestone is the negative testing. So let me move this one up here. So trying to find a link from last week's.
I can share the link if you want. Yeah, that's
okay. I just opened it up. Thanks, Fabian. So we each have some assigned scenarios. I have started putting my results in the table, Feynman, and I've created like some sections for the logs that I've captured. Is this the format that you want, or do you want anything changed?
That is my expectation. I think the error logs should be copied to the test results section, so we can
Yep.
double check if there is reasonable output or reasonable error handling.
Yeah, so far with the registry ones, it looks good to me. Like my feedback is like, it's not really easy to see the error code. Like, as you can see, we have a code and there's various code in the blob, right? So in this example, like I put in an invalid registry. I can see there's like a message about like no such horrors, and then there's different code about like repository failure, get subject failure. But reading more, maybe the error code comes from different components. Like maybe some error code comes from like the RS client, and then we've wrapped it and gave out our Ratify error code. But I think this is already a lot better than what it used to be.
Yeah, the output format looks not very pretty and obvious to users to locate the error code, right?
Yeah, and then they might get confused, like which error code should they find more information, right? But that's all future improvements. I think for V1, I've hit some issue. I have a ton of information that I can go research on.
Yep, makes sense.
That's fair.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing. Like we're running through this table, capturing the status in the result and capturing the log in the test result section.
Correct. I think we can revisit all of those test results, including the error logs, after we finish all of those test cases, and see what improvements that we should include for our next milestone.
Yep, and also try to capture some of these and start a TSG documentation. So, Feynman, what's the timeline you have in mind that we should finish these by?
I think we should finish the negative test cases before maybe next Tuesday or Wednesday, since we will release Friday. If we don't detect any obvious or user-friendly error handling results from the negative test case, so we are ready to release V1 next Friday. If we detect any unexpected error handlings, I think we still have maybe 2 or 3 days to fix those problems in Ratify before releasing V1. That is the purpose of negative test. If there's any critical bugs we detect, for example, any negative case we cannot handling very well, I think there's another case that we should consider fix. But that is tentative.
Feynman, do you know if there's somewhere like one thing that I have a bit of a concern or not concern is just how much security testing we've done, and do you know if there's like somehow a way we can, if there's like a group in the out in there in the community or something that can help us do a scan for any like security vulnerabilities or like something that we might have missed there?
That's a good question. So actually CNCF has its own security audit for CNCF incubating projects. So they are free to those incubating projects, and they do the security audit for those projects annually. I believe the Notary project has several security audit reports and also security audit results from the Security Audit Institute. But for Ratify currently, I don't think we have a free to use security audit service or anything that we can do for security audit. I don't have any suggestion right now for security audit. But that is a good asking for a security project.
Right. You know, I mean, yeah, because I think we there's a special type of attacks that we can probably try. I just feel like we need more sort of expertise here in order to make sure that we are safe. Yeah, let's yeah, because I know like maybe different cloud providers can have internal audits in their own sort of companies, but I was just wondering if there's something like that as an open source community we could sort of enlist to.
Yeah, I think the security audit was always sponsored by the open source foundation like CNCF. CNCF is sponsoring those security audit institute, those third-party organizations to audit those projects. But currently, I think we don't have that benefit to request that resource for Ratify. And there might be some paid service, security audit service, but I don't think that is necessary for Ratify right now. I don't know.
I see.
Okay, we have 3 minutes left, and I just want to quickly propose, like create a milestone together, because we've been talking about it for a while. Like what is our next release, so we can throw items in there. Luis, what UI were we on where we had the create new milestone?
Go to the milestones tab up.
Got it. And then new milestone. Okay. The goal today, we will create a milestone in the next 2 minutes. I was having a quick look at the gatekeeper milestone. So like this one, for example, for the incremental releases, it looks like they still go through the beta, RC, and then a stable version pattern. So could our next release, like tentatively, be v1.1.0 beta 0?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, let's do beta. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, Sajay said 1.1 FTW. What does FTW stand for?
For the win. For the win.
For the win.
For the win. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So v1.1.0 beta. Yes, Fabian, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to reply to Louis' question regarding the security audit. So apart from security audit, I think we still have maybe another approach to enhance our security postures for Ratify. So one of the approach is that we can enable the scorecard, the security scorecard, which is provided by the OpenSSF Foundation. And there is an open source project for open source. There's an open source project to scan the vulnerabilities of the project. I can share the link. This scorecard is very popular, and we also enable this scorecard in the Notary project in the notation repo. And another choice is that if we can onboard the Ratify Helm chart to the artifact hub, it will also automate. It will also scan the Helm chart and also its contain images and provide a security report on the artifact hub. And I remember Kyverno has its security report, which is able to view on the artifact hub website. And the third approach is that maybe we can prepare a threat modeling doc, which is used to list some potential security attack and how we handling or mitigate those security risks on the Ratify side. Maybe those three approaches can improve our confidence for security attack before we have in the official security audit. But security audit can be requested if Ratify becomes a maybe CNCF project or an foundation hosted project in the future.
Thanks for sharing, Phelan. We'll take a look.
Yeah, these are good resources. I think Sajid has his hand up.
Hey, before winding down, I would like to kind of like, I've shared the link for the Kubernetes release candidates. Releasing every 3 months it's probably kind of taxing. 3 releases a year is probably better with once in 4 months. And they have a good reasoning as to why they move that way and things like that. So I just want us to kind of consider when you do 1.1, have a plan for 3 to 4 months to kind of release it. Otherwise, it gets really hard to kind of like make any progress. And it also shouldn't be looked upon that Ratify is not making progress. So.
Yeah. So if we follow like beta, RC, then release, that'll be 3 months.
So I've just shared the SIG release process, on the chat. Maybe you can use that to kind of reference. It has a lot of information, but you can kind of like glance through it, if that helps. I don't know whether the milestone should be beta or not, but because the APIs and the configuration for the CRD will have beta in it, but it's up to us to define how we want to do this.
Yeah.
3 releases per year.
Yes, Sajid has another link shared above. I think this is a link that Kubernetes choose to change their release cadence from 4 release per year to 3 release per year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they also like they put weeks in the middle to account for holidays and KubeCon, and so I think that we should also have that flexibility here.
Yeah, I'm trying to get every.
You muted yourself, Sajid.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. I'm just trying to make sure that every community meeting I go to, I echo, don't do very aggressive releases, but don't do very slow releases. And there's also history of how they have defined it. And they have a checklist and all. It's actually pretty cool. So if you want to get more information, that's actually really nice.
Okay. I'll add these links to the notes, and then we can, like, it is a quite lengthy document.
Yes,
we'll do
it
more
is.
reading. But tentatively, okay, I'll create the next release with no due date. Does it look good to everyone? Can I create?
Yes, please go for it.
Always change it, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yay, we have a next milestone. That was my goal, because every time we're like, oh, we don't have we just keep moving everything to future, and then now they're in a giant bucket. Okay, we'll do our reading, and we'll sync up again next week. Before we say goodbye, anything else, anyone?
I think also Sajid proposed something for next week, which is interesting, on the SLSA SALSA.
Yeah, the SALSA verifiers.
Yeah. Something to look at. Anyway.
Yep. I will be able to read this on my very long flight. I'll make sure to download it.
Have a good flight.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Yep. Thanks for joining,
Thank you,
everyone.
folks.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.